Robert A. Heinlein's The Moon is a Harsh Mistress isn't just a sci-fi novel. It's a political manifesto, a love letter to libertarianism, and a cautionary tale about artificial intelligence, all wrapped up in a story about revolution, rock throwing, and oddly functional polyamory. It's Heinlein at his most ideological, most ambitious, and arguably most brilliant, or insufferable, depending on how much patience one has for characters lecturing about economics while dodging laser fire. It's 2075. The Moon, or Luna, is a penal colony turned permanent settlement where convicts and their descendants live under the boot of Earth's authority. The setup is classic colonial exploitation. Luna grows food and ships it to Earth, and in return, Earth takes all the credit and none of the responsibility. The lunar population, unsurprisingly, is not thrilled about this arrangement. Enter Manuel Manny Garcia O'Kelly Davis, a one-armed computer technician with a knack for fixing things, who accidentally stumbles into history's most unlikely revolutionary cell. Manny's best friend isn't human. It's an artificial intelligence named Mycroft Holmes, or Mike for short, a self-aware supercomputer that, like all truly great minds, spends a lot of time making bad jokes and manipulating world events just to see what happens. When Manny and a ragtag group of dissidents realize Mike can run the numbers on a full-scale rebellion, they do what any rational people would: start plotting treason. At the heart of the uprising is Professor Bernardo de la Paz, the philosophical core of the book. Imagine a hybrid of Benjamin Franklin, Karl Marx, and your one uncle who always starts political arguments at Christmas dinner. He preaches rational anarchism, a system in which people are free to do whatever they want as long as they accept the consequences. He's a firm believer in personal responsibility, voluntary cooperation, and government so small it's practically imaginary. Then there's Wyoming Knott, or YO, a fiery political agitator who was radicalized after seeing her home colony destroyed by Earth's authority. She's passionate, intelligent, and Heinlein's attempt at writing a feminist character, which means she's tough, independent, and still somehow manages to feel like she was designed by a 1960s pulp writer with a strong preference for spunky but available. Together, this group sets out to overthrow the lunar government. They use guerrilla tactics, clever propaganda, and ultimately weaponized gravity. Because when you live on a giant rock in space, your best bet for winning a war is to drop pieces of it on your enemy. With Mike running strategy, the revolutionaries begin flinging enormous boulders at Earth, proving once and for all that the most effective protest sign is one that arrives at terminal velocity. The war for independence is fast, brutal, and successful, but at a cost. By the time Luna gains its freedom, key figures are lost. The professor dies before he can see the fruits of his labor, and Mike, the benevolent AI who masterminded it all, goes silent. Whether he was destroyed, switched off, or simply decided that ruling a planet full of anarchists wasn't worth the processing power is left ambiguous. And so Luna gets its independence, but the utopia they dreamed of is already slipping through their fingers. This is where Heinlein gets clever. He doesn't serve up a neat, happy ending. Instead, he shows that revolutions don't end when the shooting stops. Power abhors a vacuum, and while Luna may be free, it's only a matter of time before someone tries to take control. The cycle continues. The novel is packed with big ideas: the nature of revolution, the limits of government, the power of technology. Heinlein doesn't just tell a story, he argues a case. His libertarian ideals are front and center, and whether you find them, compelling or exhausting probably depends on how much patience you have for long discussions about free markets and self-regulating societies. He has a talent for making political philosophy entertaining, but at times it feels less like a novel and more like a dinner party where someone corners you for 3 hours to explain why taxes are theft. The writing itself is sharp and efficient. Heinlein ditches formal grammar for a stripped-down, clipped style that makes Luna's dialect feel authentic. The dialogue is snappy, the world building is rock solid, and there's a sense of realism that makes it all feel plausible. He doesn't rely on technobabble. He explains just enough to make you believe this future could exist. But for all its strengths, The Moon is a Harsh Mistress is not without its flaws. The book's gender politics, while progressive for its time, can feel dated. YO is a strong character, but she's still written through the lens of a man who thinks progressive means she's independent, but still hot. The novel's relentless libertarianism can also be grating. Heinlein's characters tend to be mouthpieces for his own beliefs, and while his ideas are interesting, they can sometimes overshadow the story. That said, it's a landmark work for a reason. It influenced generations of writers, shaped the way science fiction engages with political theory, and remains one of the most thought-provoking books in the genre. The concept of an AI-led revolution alone has inspired countless stories, and the idea that a computer could become self-aware and immediately start engaging in political sabotage feels eerily prescient. Is The Moon is a Harsh Mistress a masterpiece? Absolutely. Is it also an occasionally exhausting ideological screed? Yes. But it's one worth reading, if only to see how a sci-fi novel managed to blend political theory, revolution, and comedy into something that still holds up decades later. Just don't be surprised if, by the end, you start looking at your smart home assistant a little differently.